Alright guys, we are now in Boiling Springs, Pennsylvania. This town started, I think, around in the 1740s. It's named for the springs, artesian springs, that come out of the ground in various places all around, in about a 2-acre area in and around this town here. Now I've read that there's as many as 30 different springs in this immediate vicinity. However, I think that some of them might have been kind of submerged when they dammed up the flow of the springs and created what is behind me, what is known as Children's Lake, and we'll go there in a little bit. Right now we're gonna visit the biggest of all the springs, called the Bubbler, and this one is the second magnitude spring. I think it's the springs in general, as taken as a group, it's the seventh, would basically be the 7th largest spring in Pennsylvania. So we're just a little north of the spring run of what they call the Bubbler, which is that spring right there. What we're looking at right here is an old quarry, and I wouldn't be surprised if all the stonework that they have all around Children's Lake, the walls and the steps and everything, was made of rock that was quarried right here. This is the Elbrook limestone. It's Cambrian aged, and this whole area around Boiling Springs is underlain by this Elbrook limestone. Now there's a very unique thing going on here in terms of the geology and why the springs in Boiling Springs are considered to be artesian, and that's that basically spring here, springs there, springs all around here. Basically going this way and going this way, okay, are these very deep vertical dikes. Back in the Triassic Age, when Pangaea was breaking up, this part of the world was right in the middle of where it was tearing apart, and it weakens the crust. It thins out the crust, and it makes it easy for magma to then rise up through. And what it does is, in this case, the magma was injected up into pre-existing Elbrook limestone and other limestones in this area, and then it just solidifies in place. So basically what you have is a big V, okay, of these volcanic diabase dikes, and they're very resistant to weathering. They're not permeable at all, okay? And then so you have the V, and then in the middle of the V you have all of the in the Boiling Springs area, you have that Elbrook limestone, and then you have another kind of limestone heading over to South Mountain. South Mountain is right over there, okay? Water comes down here, flows down off South Mountain in this direction, and because you have the V, and these dikes go very deep, all that water from this area gets channeled down into the point of the V. Right there is where the springs are, and that creates this enormous pressure, which then forces the water that's underground up through fractures and cave passages and conduits and stuff like that, forces it up with great pressure, and it creates these springs that basically boil up and bubble up from the ground with such, dramatic effect. Now I would imagine back in the mid-1700s, when this town was first formed, that the boils on these springs were a lot bigger, because it can be impacted, the amount of water can be impacted by developments. So when you take all these 30 springs together, it equals, and if we were to just basically pool all of the output, it works out to be about the 7th largest spring in the state. Now the biggest single vent, or the single biggest spring in this whole group of springs, is right here, and this is called the Bubbler, because it kind of bubbles up from the ground. We'll see here, but it's not, I forget exactly how much comes out of here. It's quite a bit. And you can see they constructed this special kind of platform around it. You can walk around. Okay, so there's the Elbrook limestone right there, and you can see that roil, or that boil, right there. Okay, this is the main vent. This is the biggest of all these vents around here. It's also coming out over here too. You can see it right there. That's the main vent. Flows out here, and then it has this huge spring run which runs down and joins up with Children's Lake. And there's more springs over here, which we'll go to in a second. Okay, so here you go. This is the from here to here, probably about 8 feet across. And as you can see, this whole thing is just venting out here. That's a lot of water. I think it's like 0.7 on average, like 0.7 cubic meters per second. I'll have to work out how many gallons that is, but it's a lot. And the flow amount does vary here. It's not always the same amount. Let's go check out the boil over there. All right, so I'm standing on that little outcrop right now. I'll give you a close-up shot. There it is. I talked to a long-time member of the York Grotto, which is the local caving club down in York, Pennsylvania. His name is Dale Iverson. He was a long-time caver in this area. And I asked him once at a meeting, they have these monthly meetings, I asked him once at the monthly meeting about Boiling Springs, and because I had been here before, and one of my first thoughts when I came here for the first time was, obviously you can see there's the vent opening is right there. It's pretty big. So I asked him, has anybody ever been down in there? And he told me that yes, there was a guy, I'm going to say probably back in the 50s or the 60s, who went down in here, went down into the vent. There's a cave right here with some gear, and he basically tried to get down into any passages that were here with scuba gear. And basically what Dale said to me was that he didn't get very far. He maybe kind of forced himself into the entrance here, and it was too small, or it was obstructed, or maybe the flow was too great, because sometimes you can get the water coming out of these vents it's so forceful that it blows you right back up. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back here with the waterproof housing and the light, and we're going to see if we can't stick the camera right down in there. And over here, it looks to me like there's also another vent right under here, so we're going to check that one out too. There's the Boiling Springs Tavern, downtown Boiling Springs. Boiling Springs Veterans Park. Alright, so we just saw the bubbler, which was like the big one. And over here in the Veterans Park in Boiling Springs, there's several more vents over here that I want to show you before we put the camera housing on and try to see if we can get inside some of these things here. This is Children's Lake. This is an artificial lake. Down there is the old, there's an old ironworks down there, and the dam is right down there. This used to be probably just a series of spring runs coming together and then flowing into the Yellow Breeches Creek. As you can see here, the water is very clear, and we've got some nice outcrops of the Elbrook. This is the War Memorial. Looks like they have some old artillery there. Alright, so here's one of the vents right here. Now the flow on this one doesn't look very strong. And then over here you have ones which are obviously much more vigorous. You can see there's a big outcrop of the Elbrook right here. Right here, got an obvious vent. Here's another one right here. Okay, and it's probably coming from the same conduit underneath the rock here. And then over here you have another one. And this one here, you can see it's coming out from kind of a horizontal fissure there, but it's all part of that same big outcrop right there. And then the last one I found around here This is Children's Lake right here. Got some ducks, some nice houses. This is an outfitting store here, canoes, kayaks, fishing. This is a really cool place. If you ever come by Boiling Springs, make sure you stop in there and check that out. It's a really cool place. This is the last one right here. Get an angle on it, you can kind of see the boil right there. Okay, and you can see the bedrock. It's kind of an orange color, and the vent's got to be somewhere right around there, I'd say. So we're going to stick our camera right in here too. And like I said, you can see outcrops underwater all throughout this area right here. So if there were 30 springs in total, before they dammed it up down there for the ironworks, I would imagine a lot of those springs are now submerged underwater, whereas before they probably had little spring pools that all coalesced and came together.